Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And if you've ever wanted to know how to clearly define your R.O.I, meaning return on impact, with real estate investing, then guess what? Today's the conversation that I promise you're going to want to listen to until the very, very end. Because today's guests, I did say guests, first and foremost, our first guest, Suzy, she attended a TEDx event that changed her life forever. You know, because at that event, she began to search for her why. And in her current role, in her current corporate adventure, I should say, it includes, being responsible for supply chain as well as program management responsibilities. But that's not all, folks. Stick around. And then Michael is a U.S. Air Force officer with over 16 years of experience, and he found his passion for teaching as a senior instructor of biology at the U.S. Air Force Academy. And upon graduation, he served as a counter-proliferation program manager dealing with defense systems over $100 million. And you know what? The coolest part about all of this is both Suzy and Michael are the co-founders of Adventurous R.E.I., as well as the host of the amazingly popular podcast, The Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Suzy Sevier and Michael Barnhart. Suzy, Michael, welcome to the show.
Woo, glad to be here. Thanks, Billy.
Listen, I'm super excited.
I love the intro.
Whenever I see the two of you, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so cool. And I love your energy, and I love what the two of you are doing and the lives that you're impacting all around the globe. So welcome to the show. And listen, everybody else here knows, and I know the two of you know, I like to ask everybody at least kind of the same 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning, you're going to get 3 in the end, and then kind of in the middle, the 3 of us are going to talk about the 2 of you and all the things that you're doing. So let's get started. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Awesome. So the first question goes to the 2 of you because it's the same location, because you're standing in the same place. So help us understand, where in the world are you located?
We are in Cambridge, England. We're across the pond from the U.S. and we love it.
Yes.
We're here in space on this side of the world with Billy.
Yes, exactly. So we're both on this side of the pond, which is going to make this awesome and interesting conversation because we love doing something that's very similar. Awesome. So with that, also, I love to talk about the most positive things that have happened, get some things started with positivity. So Suzy, would you help us understand what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Just waking up next to Michael.
Oh, that is wonderful. Michael, no pressure here now. So, Michael, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
We are cleared to close on our 100 unit on Friday. So looking forward to that.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. Congratulations. I know a lot of hard work has gone into that, and I'm sure you're going to tell us more about that here coming up very, very soon. So listen, I gave like a really, really high level, and I kind of focused on just some of the things that you've been doing. And there's a whole lot more. It's almost impossible to give your backstory, both of your backstories, in 15 seconds. So, Michael, Suzy, Michael, would you please share with the Going Long family your backstory so we can get to understand more about the 2 of you, kind of what brought you to this point in your journey? And if you take a couple seconds also too, maybe to talk to us about some of the major inflection points and decisions that you made to get to this point in your journey.
Absolutely. I can start with that. So as you mentioned at the beginning, like the whole, reset was at a TEDx conference, but just a little bit before that. So I had been in Colorado. I was getting my MBA at the University of Denver, and I was in accounting. And I just had thought to myself, I need a life change, right? If you know me, or if you don't know me, accounting is just not I just don't fit in that box, which is totally fine. I mean, I like numbers, just not accounting. And so with that, got the MBA and decided to move into supply chain, because for me, supply chain, knowing how like a raw material can completely go like through a 360 change into the finished product blew my mind. And like learning deeper about that and applying it to everything in the world was something that I knew that I wanted to do, right? Which brings me to Cambridge. I'm currently a program manager for a biotech company over here, but the TEDx event actually is where Michael and I met, and the whole theme was reset. So that's really why it changed our life, because with that, we were asking different questions to ourselves, because the whole conference has you thinking differently about things in your life, whether that is, like tattoos, solitary confinement, religion, beatboxing. Like the topics were so broad that afterwards, we just took a step back and we were like, we need to ask more why questions. Why are we doing the things that we do? Why do we think the way that we think? And just continuing to do that, moving forward, and that was huge for us. But I want Michael to introduce himself before I get into the real estate investing part. So I'm going to let him go for a little bit.
Awesome.
Thanks, Suzy. So as you mentioned in the beginning, Billy, I have been in the Air Force for now 16 years. And before coming to Cambridge, I was teaching at the Air Force Academy, genetics and molecular methods. And then they basically wanted me to continue teaching. So they sent me to get a PhD, and they're like, anywhere? And they're like, sure, anywhere. I was like, cool, Cambridge it is. It took a little bit more convincing than that. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that they're allowing me to attend this awesome university and get my PhD in biochemistry. And so we've been here for about 2 years now. Once I'm done here, we will move back to Colorado, where I'll continue teaching at the Air Force Academy, and then finish out my military career. I have about 7 years left, and the plan is to, leverage real estate, which Suzy will get into in a second, to then just go into that full time. So.
Yeah, and for our real estate investing journey, it actually all happened because of COVID-19 and the lockdown. So for the first one, like over here in the UK, we were just told to go home, and they didn't have an end date in mind at that point. And so,
sorry. When you say go home, what did you mean? Go home, go where?
Oh, like go to your physical house. Just
okay.
Yeah. So
right.
For us, it's our flat, that's what it was. If you could work from home, cool. But if you couldn't, then you were just going to be at your house. And Michael and I don't have a television. So we just looked at each other and we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because all we can do right now is leave our house once a day to exercise, go to the grocery store, go to the pharmacy. And with that, we started a mini book club because we just wanted to take advantage of the time off, because that's essentially what it was, right? I mean, yes, Michael was working on his first year paper, but after that, you have to find something else to do. And through the mini book club, one of the books was Multiple Streams of Income by Robert Allen. And a couple chapters in, it talks about real estate investing. And Michael's like, hey, skip all the first chapters. Please just go to this one. This is something we have to do. And at that moment, just for clarification, that was him giving me permission and me giving him permission to do something beyond and new from what we were used to doing. And that was a huge, point for us. It was that we were both saying yes to something that we had never done before. And we had no idea how we were going to do it, right? Because I had never been in real estate investing. I mean, Michael dabbled in it a little, with a live-in, flip, but from there, it was just pouring into ourselves as much education as we could, with podcasts, book content, blogs, all of the above. We just wanted to consume because we had no idea how long everything would be virtual, but we knew that while it was virtual, that was our greatest opportunity. So again, flipping it to where COVID was a challenge. Yes, it was still, there were things that were still challenging for us, but seeing that challenge as an opportunity to do more.
So there's a number of different things that I want to talk about, but being when you just, as you said, you saw this opportunity, you each had your lives, and you gave one another permission to be able to do these things, but really, rather than saying this is a challenge, it becomes an opportunity. And if you'll allow me, Suzy, I am going to kind of push back on one of the things that you said. You said that you all were just consuming. And from what I do know about the two of you, I'm going to add something else, because not only were you consuming, you were doing. Because you are extremely active and you're not just consumers. Because I know there are a lot of people that just sit around and listen to podcasts all day, every day, and they think that they're going to actually do something, but they don't do anything. And what I do know about the two of you, beside from actually getting involved, being in a number of different places. I mean, I know we've talked about this on your podcast, because you were very gracious to have me over there, and everybody from the Going Long family, you need to go check them out as well on episode 11, and start from the beginning, actually, because there's got a lot of fantastic stuff. But you were part of groups, you were interacting, you started a European meetup and things like that. So I have to push back and say you weren't just consuming, you were also doing, which is what sets the two of you apart, and being able to get a lot more done than most people. So you know what? Yeah, sure. Listen, one of the things that I do want, because we're going to get into your story, and I know you also love long distance investing. But Michael, you had Suzy said you had very limited, but you did have some exposure to real estate. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what that real estate experience was like, and also how did that I guess this was probably before you met Suzy, like how did that end up?
Yeah. So it's very, very limited exposure because I had no idea what I was doing. So my dad was a contractor. And so I bought a house that I could afford when I was in Ohio. And so when I was there for the military, I was stationed at R.E.I. So I bought a house that I could afford, lived in it. And I just really loved doing projects around the house. And so I ended up just updating the entire house just because I had nothing else to do better on the weekends. And my dad had taught me, carpentry stuff and how to tile and how to do all these things, build fences and decks and things like that. So I literally spent my weekends and all my free time building, because I just love building things. And so I remodeled the entire house. And then when I was getting deployed, I had to sell the house. My real estate agent was actually like, "Hey, you should rent this out. You could probably rent it out and you get a lot of money." And I was like, "No, I don't want to deal with tenants and things like that." And I ended up making some money on the house. And at that time, I had no idea what a flip was. And thinking back, I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did do a live-in flip, not on purpose. I just really enjoyed doing stuff around the house, like remodeling bathrooms and stuff." So that's the only very limited exposure I had to real estate investing.
Yeah, but so this is pretty interesting, right? Because you were in a place, you were in there short term, you bought it, you fixed it up, and then eventually you moved out and you sold it and you made a profit. Was it a profitable venture?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
So it was a positive experience for you, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then I'm going to project back to when you all were doing the book club, because you went directly to, Suzy, if I understood you correctly earlier, you said that Michael said, "Hey, everybody just kind of skip and go straight to this part about real estate." Is that accurate?
Correct.
And so and the reason I'm asking this question is a lot of times people, when they have an experience in real estate, and the first one, even though Michael, nowadays you thought it wasn't really, that kind of planted the seed for something that you had, at least I want your thought on this, but I'm thinking, well, at least that planted the seed that, hey, look, you can actually make something nicer, and eventually you can make a profit from that, because that's what happened to you. So that was your experience, your latent experience there. And so then I guess what you thought, have you ever thought about how that impacted you, and you're saying go directly to this chapter?
I never thought about that. I appreciate the therapy session, Billy. Now I'm thinking about it, yeah, absolutely. I was trying to think of other examples, for the stock market, losing money several times in 2008. And then again, in March of last year, in 2020, losing a substantial amount of money that we had in the stock market. I was like, oh, okay. That's a negative thing. So the first part of his book is all about, stock market, option trading, things like that. I was like, nope, have no desire to do that. And when it came to real estate, I was like, oh yeah, sure. That sounds great. So seems a lot safer.
No, sounds okay, perfect. So I'm glad that we got that little therapy session out of the way there. At the same time, so I know, and one of the things that I led with here in the beginning is the two of you are really big on an R.O.I, right? But Suzy, I would love for you to talk about what is the R.O.I that you talk about, and how did you actually come up with your version of R.O.I, which I happen to like a lot myself.
Thanks. So really, like there's like a lot that goes to this. So like return on impact means like for the people who we surround ourselves with or work with or whatever you want to choose, right? Like it can be with Michael, my family, the residents that we serve, the people that we work with, like how do we impact them and what is that impact? Because for us, like there are 8 billion, almost 8 billion people in this world. And if everybody impacted somebody else positively, 1% or even 0.5% every day, like think how amazing, like and manageable that would, like that ripple would create throughout the world. And like, you know, when we were just thinking of it like this, because we have like looked at deals and been in situations where our like landlords out there, which are, you know, active investors, are not treating like people the way that they should be. We knew deep down that that was never something that we were going to do, but not even just as like landlords, you know, like how do we treat our team better? How do we treat each other better? How do we treat our family better? Which also goes back to the reset TED Talk, you know, just asking ourselves, how can we do things better? And so return on impact was really just born because we like the initial verbiage, like we were writing like R.O.I out. And then just one day it was like, whoa, return on impact, you know, like it just clicked and it works so well because so many people are focused on the financial part of everything. But like when we come to a space where we talk about humans over finances, the greater good is so much larger and so much better. The conversations are deeper. They're more emotional. You can express vulnerability. And with that, you can create like a bigger effect on people. And that's really what it was. Like I said, like who do Michael and I want to be, you know, as I guess spouses, lovers, partners, whatever word you want to use. How do I want to be a colleague or coworker to somebody else in this space? How do I want to be a leader? All of those questions, it just goes right back to return on impact, because I want to make sure, especially for the residents, right, that like, yes, I have their basic need of shelter covered, but how can I create a community where they are thriving instead of just surviving? I want to create a space where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable. And not just me, right? Like with our property management company as well. What can we do as a team to hopefully influence these people to get to a space, like I said, where they are truly thriving? Because it's not just with them. If they have a spouse, it like that impacts them. If they have children and their children see, you know, that like more self-confidence, that goes on to their children. They bring that to work. Like, it's just amazing how that one word impact, like even with 1%, how it can truly change lives for the better if we just start thinking of it that way.
Yeah. And so when you put it into that type of perspective, right, it is one of those things, and you say, all right, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to be proactive in the way that not only that I think about it, but the way that I actually go out and do it. Right. And so one of the things that also, and it ties into what we do here on the Going Long podcast, right, is we love being able to impact lives, and we love being able to do that long distance. Right. And so I always tell the kind of story, like I read a lot of the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and kind of went from there to reading a whole bunch of books, and most of the books, not all of them, most of the books said, hey, look, you know what? Buy this property, be a landlord, make $200, because that's what I was looking at, bucks, $200, $300, and you can just continue to do this, but you do that in your backyard. And I fundamentally today, I don't believe that you have to live in the same place as you invest. I just don't do it because I've been doing it for the last 6.5 years, and I live in Europe, as the two of you do, and invest in the United States. But I know why I started doing long distance investing, and I would love for the two of you to tell us, well, maybe obvious for some, but probably for a lot of people, not really. But why do you actually believe that you don't have to invest in the same place that you live?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You can.
That's a great question, Billy. So there is a limiting belief, right? There is a belief that, hey, you know, if you can't drive down the street, or you can't, you know, hop in a car, you know, and drive, you know, across the state line or whatever, like, and get to your property within a certain amount of time, then you shouldn't be investing there. Like, it's just a limiting belief. Like, people are consumed with like being able to touch, feel, and smell their asset if necessary, right? But it doesn't have to be that way, right? If you are starting a business, right, and you want to be a business owner, big B in the quadrant, cash flow quadrant, be a business owner, you have to be disciplined to set up the systems and processes that are necessary to invest in a property that's 500 feet down the street or 5,000 miles away, right? And so I think that actually investing in an asset that we can't see daily or monthly, I think it forces us, and it's been a lot better for us to set up those systems and processes so we can move from the self-employed to the big B business owner. And so if a lot of other people could see it that way and see that you have to have the same systems and processes from any distance that you want to invest in order to make sure that your business is running properly and correctly, then I think a lot more people would be more interested in investing long distance.
And I want to add something because I think it's super exciting. So 2 things. 1, traditional school system, right? It's almost like factory work. And so I want people to know that after going that traditional school system, you don't have to then go into more factory work, which really 9 to 5 is shift work to me. It doesn't matter if you're in a factory or not. But I hear people say so often, I wish I could travel there. Yes, there is a handful of people who don't like to travel, but I also hear them saying that they wish they could move somewhere else. This is all possible. And this is why we're doing it, because we want people to know that you can have a business and do the things that you love at the same time, no matter where you are. And that even goes along with Michael about the systems and processes. That is truly all that you need. But I hear all the time, right? Even as a military spouse, that we have to fit in this box, but we don't. And if you have children out there, neither do your children. If you have a truly creative entrepreneurial child, you can kind of tell, from a young age, these world experiences will help them shape them and grow them, even for me, just for my perspective, when I was in school, my creativity, and my energy was looked down upon on report cards, right? It was talk too much in class. Well, what? I'm excited to be here. Shouldn't that be something that's amazing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just something like that. But just to know that there are other options and you can choose those options because of this, that is amazing to me.
Yeah, so you have both of these things, right? You have understanding kind of where today's kind of educational system is, and you can actually learn and grow, and you can do that even if you don't have an A on your report card or wherever you live in the world. It may be a 10 out of 10 or whatever. And then at the same time, and I'm a recovering perfectionist, and so this whole thing about being able to walk down the street and actually manage your properties yourself, I would have probably everyone would have hated me, right? Because I would have been at the property all day, every day. And so to Michael's point as well, the whole thing about putting the systems in place and the processes in place, that's absolutely key when you want to move from the E quadrant to the B quadrant, right? And then eventually be able to also do that in the I quadrant, and then everything is good to go. So, I mean, the things that you're talking about, you're really helping us understand why long distance investing, because you kind of got started. Well, not kind of got started, but after Michael's initial positive experience here, the two of you decided to go into it together, being here from Europe. So that's also something that's close to my heart. So speaking of which, so you all are kind of consuming this content and consuming this stuff, and you're actually then taking action, because this is the part. Because will you please confirm that you actually purchased your first properties living in Cambridge, and those properties were where?
We did. That's a confirmation that we did purchase every property that we own from Cambridge, England, and they are in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 4,200 and some odd miles away, depending where you're at in Tulsa.
Wow. Okay. So 4,200 plus. I think that's 3,000 some odd kilometers, but that's okay. Just joking. So here's the thing. I would love for you to tell the Going Long family also too, a bit about kind of how you were able to get started. Like why did you even have this audacity to even, after just consuming these groups and stuff like that, to actually get started? Talk to us about that and what that looks like today, how you were actually able to get involved and build momentum.
Absolutely. So what it looked like was like finding forums online and like creating that courage to actually post. Because from those posts, we found out that there were other people overseas who were investing in real estate. And that right there was like huge for us. But then with that, like, and then meeting more people and just social media in itself was huge, right? Because you could find conferences, events, meetups, but we attended a conference like shortly into, I guess, this whole education part. And one of the speakers was Whitney Sewell. And we had like a breakout with him, and Whitney Sewell just looked at, like Michael and I, and just said to Michael, like, Michael, you don't have to start with single family. You can start with multifamily. And Michael likes to say that we had like a false start. So even with that really great advice, we were like, hey, we're going to go into single family. And I say that because like we were going to BRRRR property. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I got it. I just had to think.
Yes.
But, yeah. Nailed it.
Yeah. We had set up a team and everything in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and just had all of the systems and processes in place. And actually an inland hurricane went through that market and lost like 60% of the trees. People were out of power for weeks. And so contractors were like, hey, we're going to rebuild our homes, our family homes, and the city. We were like, no, that's totally fine. Totally understandable. Like it was horrible what happened. But from there, Michael and I weren't just going to be on the sidelines and wait for the city to rebuild itself. And our 5-year goal was to get into multifamily. But because Whitney Sewell's wise words, we were like, hey, we're going to jump into this. And so our education then changed, right, to everything multifamily investing. And from there, we attended more conferences. I think we went to 10, like from August of 2020 to February of 2021. And in one of those conferences, it was like, hey, you need to have an identity shift. Everybody knows you for what you've been doing. Nobody knows you as a real estate investor. We were like, wow, that's true, And so we just didn't want to talk about ourselves though, right? Because that's a huge thing too. So many people are like, well, I don't want to just talk about myself on social media, but just like talk about your experience. Hey, this is a new venture that I'm getting into. Like, I'd love to talk more about it with other people who are interested. But through that, some people will scroll and be like, okay, they're never going to be into this again. So what we did is that we started writing blog content, and that's also scary within itself. But what's also really funny about that is to think that anybody's going to actually read your first blog article. Like, why, why would anyone be like, oh, okay, cool. She wrote a blog article. But what it is that we kept writing blog articles. We kept showing up to meetups, and we kept being at conferences. So because of that, we showed the consistency. And because of the consistency, people started to take us seriously because we needed more touch points, right? And so with that, like one of Michael's old classmates from the academy reached out to him and was like, hey, I'm super interested in multifamily. We should chat. We had like an organic introduction and that individual, like through that introduction, ended up being our mentor, like in mastermind groups and meetups, we met other people who have been part of our team. It's just amazing to me. Like, one, the power of social media, but two, like what consistency will do for you. And not even consistency, but like with those calls, if you said you were going to do something, just do it, because that's where so many people aren't. Like, that's where they're pulling out. Like, if you say you're going to send an email with a certain amount of information, or you're going to do an introduction, you just need to do it because that's what you said you were going to do. And that's how you build trust with people.
Yeah. So building trust in all those wonderful examples you just gave also helps to go back to the point that I was making earlier. You weren't just consuming content. You were actively participating, taking action. And this is the important part for the entire Going Long family, right? What Suzy and Michael are demonstrating is you have to go beyond consuming. You have to go beyond just running on the treadmill, listening to this podcast, going, wow, this sounds like a great idea. Like, nothing in your life is going to change until you start to take action. Sometimes it's going to work really, really well. Other times it's not going to work. but you're going to get that feedback and you're going to eventually start to continue to move forward. But I mean, when you have examples like this, I mean, even Suzy and I and I know we talked about this on you all's podcast, but I mean, it was thanks to you reaching out and that we met one another at Jerome Meyer's Mid-Atlantic conference. And so there was another taking action. And so today, here we are, we're having you share your entire story with the Going Long family. So, and I know you were just getting started. And so this is helping in building the community, but as you why did you even think that you could actually so Whitney Sewell, by the way, if he gave you that recommendation, he's a good person to listen to, by the way.
Yeah.
So he knows a little bit about multifamily. And then from there, but you actually then went forward again and you took action after having, like you said, your false start. Why?
So for me, the main reason was, and Michael can give his after, was that when Michael and I had that time together during the lockdowns, like where it was uninterrupted time with Michael and I knew, because when he went back to work, it was really sad. I was really sad. And so I knew that like that momentum needed to stay with me so that when he can retire in 7 years, I will have no reason to be sad, because I do not want him to have to be in the position where he needs to go into another military position or a DOD position, right? Because I'm going to go full time into real estate and I need, like my best friend to join me in that journey. So that's where the action came from. Like I was crying, when he went back to work. I never want to have to do that again. I don't. Like if he is my life partner, I want to be with my life partner more than I'm with my coworkers. Like that doesn't make sense to me. So for me, that was the push for the action.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge thing for me as well. We really enjoyed time together, and we look forward to when we could spend all day, every day with each other again. So, but along with that, like once I put my mind to something as well, like you will not like Will Smith has a quote, like, you will not outwork me on a treadmill. Two things are going to happen on a treadmill. I'm either going to beat you or I'm going to die trying. And so I really resonate with that quote from Will Smith. And so, because I feel the same way, like once I make my mind up on something, like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, or I'm going to die trying. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, you got to you take it to the limit and you leave it all on the proverbial table, I think is what they say, or on something like that. I've been in Europe for a long time, so multiple languages, I get confused sometimes. So one of the other things that I know is really important for the two of you as well is this sense of community, right? You've participated in communities and now you're in a phase also too, where you want to continue to share. You talked about the blog and things that were happening there. Talk to us maybe a bit more about the sense of community and what are some of the things that you're not just consuming, but the things that you're actually doing to continue to build something that's important for you, which is community.
No, absolutely. And so the community piece plays or like makes a space in our world is because Michael was an educator, professor, will be again. I have been a coach and a mentor. So we have seen what education can do in a community. So like a community can be whatever group of people you want it to be, right? Like just to put that into perspective. But like how we're building it is actually through education. So like we want like our community of general partners, for example, like we want to create a safe space where they can ask questions and learn to grow, like even within our residents, because that's a great one. Like we're doing resident events and that brings them all together. We have a property manager who is phenomenal and makes them feel safe. So when they do have an issue with rent, they can go to them and know that it's not going to be like a reprimand session, that in itself, like we really want a safe community. But like the biggest thing, I guess, long-term for communities is that we want to build schools in developing countries because we want to expand our, education means outside of a classroom. And so like we want to be able to live and travel to different communities, see how we can serve them best. And in hopes with that, like build a school for the community, because for us, like education is the underlying factor that drives everything forward. So we want to try to build those communities that are, I guess, around education if possible, because that would just be truly amazing for us to do. Because in education in itself, right, it's done so much for us, but it's been like a privilege. We've just had it handed to us, since the day we were born. Other people don't have that privilege. And so we want to give them a chance to experience it, like if it works where they are. That's what we want to try to do.
Well, from what I do know about you, and I think what we're learning about you is you're not going to try to do it. I feel pretty confident you're going to actually do it. I think it was Yoda that says you do or do not, but try is not, or something like that. Yeah. But anyway, you won't try, you will actually do. So I'm fully confident of that. And, and as we speak about the community piece, and I guess just to kind of, before we get into the going long final three, there is one thing that I would love to know a bit more about. And if you can kind of paint the picture of the future. I mean, you've been able to find different communities, you've started to learn, and you're growing, and you consumed, you put into practice the things that you were learning, and even actively got into and are in long distance investing, which is something that we all love here on the Going Long podcast. Yes. So, but help us understand, like, Suzy, Michael, what is like the next 18 months, 12 to 18 months look like for you? How many lives are you impacting? What's your ROI planned for the next 12 to 18 months? Just kind of high level, just so we get a sense of where you're going.
Yeah, so we are still, working on our vivid vision, and it's like it's a iterative process, and we're just finalizing it now. But basically, what we want to do, first off, like, we want to achieve $100 million assets under management, and what that does is just unlocks us to be able to reach more investors, and then impact more and more communities to do that. So along with that as well, we want to start like an impact investing course as well, to help people unlock different ways that they can leverage real estate and to make an impact in their world and the world around them.
Yeah, because the whole point, like, even just to go with our podcast, right? Like, we kept hearing these people's phenomenal stories, just like yours, Billy, about how they are impacting while leveraging real estate, right? Like, that's the big piece, is that they can do a lot of it because of the real estate investing. And so some people, hear the stories. They could hear one story, right? And I can just pull one, for example, where like Dr. Erin Hudson, she builds orphanages with like her acquisition fees. And some people are like, I can't build an orphanage. But then you listen to Billy's story, then you listen to Brian's story, then you listen, to Daisy's story, Jerome's story. It doesn't matter whose story you're listening to. As long as you keep listening to those stories, you create, like, you become more creative, and you start to think about the impact that you want to make as well. Like, all of us have the same goal of making an impact, but all of our stories and journeys are different. And that's the best part, because we were born to make an impact. We were not born just to be born and do nothing. Your impact is deep inside you. And like Michael was saying, like with the impact investing course, we want to help people like unlock that, whatever that is, because like I said, like 1% every day makes a huge difference, compounding. And then when everybody else starts to do it as well.
It is about the effect, the ripple effect. You inspired me to think about the ripple effect on episode 11 on your podcast. So once again, and definitely, I like the fact when you talk about thinking about different ideas. And so when you listen to the different podcasts, and it goes also to Suzy, just also what Michael mentioned earlier in the beginning of the conversation, which was really around the limiting beliefs. And many times you may think, well, in the example that you used earlier, well, maybe you can't do something, or you think you can't fund an orphanage because you just heard it once. But when you hear it twice or you hear it 3 times and you understand that there are people that are just like you, then you start thinking, okay, well, hang on a second. Maybe it wasn't just that one person. It sounds like a lot of people are doing it. I have to find out now how I go about doing that. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the powers of being able to have and build community, or listening to or taking in certain acts of content. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you must take action, like the two of you have taken action, in order to get results or get new results. Because if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll get the results that you've already already gotten. So, so that definitely resonates. And you know what, as much as I want to just continue to keep talking and asking you all, cause I love your story and you guys are so like inspirational, we have to get to the going long final three.
Okay.
And the thing is, I never ask anybody about the going long final three unless they tell me that they're ready. So Michael, Suzy, Michael, are you ready?
Woo, yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Lightning round. So we're all here on this side of the pond and we're going to stay on this side of the pond. You know what? Because I love asking people what their favorite European cities are that they've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit. So we're going to start with you, Suzy. What is your favorite European city?
So it's one I want to visit, and I don't know if I'm going to say it right, so excuse me, but it's Casicas in Portugal. So it's near Lisbon, but so I'm obsessed with Portugal in general. I really want to go there, but like everything that I've looked up and the pictures that I've seen, this little part just seems like a lot of people don't know about it. It's beautiful. It's hidden. It's just where I would like to, lay in the sand and be happy.
It's wonderful. And I'm going to butcher it too, but it's something closer to Cascais or something like that. So but I just wanted you to not feel alone because we both did it. So it's all good. So Michael, what is your favorite European city that either that you visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Yeah. So I think my favorite city that I visited so far is definitely Prague. But I will just say one place I've been dying to visit is just any of the Canary Islands. I just want to go diving out there, and we've been trying to do it for a while now, and just hasn't happened because of COVID.
Well, so. Eventually you're going to get there, and we take our kids there. We try to take them there once a year. The COVID kind of took a break, but we'll get back there this year. So wonderful. So listen, so I have the last two of the going long final three. We're going to do this lightning fast.
Okay.
But the thing is we, like one of the things that the two of you are very successful, right? And the thing that I've always noticed about very successful people, and the two of you know this because you've heard me talk about this before, like the thing is really successful people, they're successful because they've only like made one mistake in their entire trajectory, which is why they're, I get it wrong every single time, maybe by design. No. So the idea here is, look, the thing that successful people do differently than anyone else, they make probably a lot more mistakes, a lot more learning opportunities, however you want to call it. But there's always this concept of really learning from the mistake. And so I would love for the two of you to just share really quickly with us, what is the one lesson that you've learned in the past from a mistake you've made or a learning opportunity that you think would be really invaluable for the Going Long family to know or learn?
So for me, like a limiting belief, or I wouldn't believe mistake would be focusing on the outcome and dreaming about the outcome rather than focusing on the process. When I find myself focusing too much on the outcome and visualizing the outcome instead of actually just intently focusing on the process, I notice like things start slipping, things like that. So what I'm trying to tell your listeners, just focus on the process, do your daily routines, do the grind. It feels like a grind, but hey, the outcome is going to be there if you focus on the process.
Yeah, perfect. Appreciate that. Suzy?
So for me, it'd be that your greatest successes will come from the greatest risks. So those failures are just pushing you forward. I promise. They feel painful at the time, but life was not meant to not be painful. That's why we have the emotion, so just remember that your greatest success is beyond it.
Wow, that was awesome as well. So listen, here we go. Time to feed the brain. Last question. Suzy, you go first. Okay. What is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family?
So I thought about that today, and it's going to be the Book of Joy. And I'm choosing it because what we think happiness and joy is definitely not. And so that book just made me realize how much more peaceful I can be with myself once I figure out what joy truly is.
Awesome.
Yes. And for me, it is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book is just a great book just to learn how to treat people correctly. And you can go so far in life with just great conversations with people and learn how to just talk to them. That's it.
Yep. Awesome. So listen, amazing. These conversations go by way too fast, like just way, way, way too fast. And so, just thinking about the fact that the two of you at a TEDx conference decided to reset your life, started thinking about why, really started focusing. Michael, you had this early on event that positively affected your life, but you didn't realize that until this conversation today. And then many years later, when you said, skip all the other pages, let's go straight to the whole real estate thing. Like, this is really, really awesome. You considered from there, COVID happened. You could have kind of collapsed, not done anything, but you actually, both of the two of you together, decided to move forward faster, not just consume, but consume and take action. You got involved in a bunch of different groups. You took on advice from people. You had some starts that stopped, and then you started again, focused on multifamily, focused on building community, focused on building and adding value, and most importantly, really creating a positive return on impact. And all of the things that you're doing from a long distance investing perspective, which we absolutely love, and all the people that you continue to inspire and impact, I know they're thinking, oh my gosh, I love Suzy's story. I love Michael's story. Their combined story is amazing. Help us understand, what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about the two of you, how they can connect with you and things like that?
The easiest way to get a hold of us and connect with us is just go to our website, adventurousrei.com/info. And there you have everything. So you can connect with us on LinkedIn there. You can read more about return on impact. And then you can also go to our YouTube channel, find our podcast as well.
Yeah, we know that everybody consumes information a different way. So we wanted to make sure that we had all the content out there for you to specifically choose, because we all know everybody's different and we want to give everyone a chance.
Awesome. So adventurousrei.com/info. Find out everything. For those of you that connect with them on LinkedIn, they are very active on LinkedIn, and also make sure that you let the two of them know that you listened and watched them here on the Going Long podcast. It's just going to help the three of you connect and faster and continue the conversation. So listen, Suzy, Michael, Suzy, thank you so very much for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family. It has been absolutely awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you. It was truly a pleasure. And we are always so happy to share space with you. So thank you so much, Billy.
Absolutely, Billy. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks. And if you give me just a couple seconds, just want to say a couple words to the Going Long family really quickly. Listen, everybody. Michael and Suzy, they just left so much really tangible information that you can pick up. You don't just consume it, but take it and put it into the action. Also, listen, take today's episode. You know somebody needs to hear this. Share it with 2 or 3 other people. It's going to really help to impact their lives positively, and you will be the person that positively impacts them by sharing today's episode. Also, take a couple seconds, leave an honest review and a rating. That's something that I like to really go through, make sure that we can continue to attract other awesome guests like Suzy and Michael. And listen, I know that you're having an awesome day. I want to let you know that I'm looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. Until then, make it a great day, and thank you very much. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.